G'day legends. Do you ever wonder how the pros get the guitars to sound so big and wide in the chorus? How when that chorus hit, it just explodes and the whole mix opens up? Well, I'm going to show you a couple of classic mixing tips and you'll be surprised how simple these are, but how effective they are as well. So if you want to learn how to make your guitars pop just like this, then stick around because we're going to dive straight into this. Okay, so as you can see, this is a pretty simple kind of setup for a mix. We've got drums, we've got bass, and we've got double track guitars, guitar left and right. And so when you're working with not a ton of layers, you have to think creatively as to how you can make something pop, how to make a section really sound exciting, because once everything's in the mix, there's nothing else that you can add to it. All that you can do is use your creativity to make the mix stand out. Now, to really make something stand out and sound exciting in a mix, you need contrast. So there's a couple little steps here to make this happen, but I'm going to show you what it sounds like if I just leave these guitars in one single position and I don't change any of the panning, any of the levels, any of that stuff. Have a listen to how boring this sounds. Okay, you notice that it didn't really pop. Like there was a fill into the chorus on the drums, but then it just kept cruising along at that same amount of energy as before. Let's hear it again with these mixing techniques applied. Absolutely massive difference, so much more exciting. So let's dive into it. Our first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some panning to our guitars. So to avoid the mix sounding kind of sterile and boring like I showed you when we didn't have anything applied to it, what we need to do is create this contrast. So for our verses, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the guitars in a little bit. We're going to not pan them out quite as far. We're going to narrow the mix a little bit so that we can make the chorus widen out and explode. So you can see for both the left and the right guitar, I've applied some panning as soon as the verse hits. So what we have here is the intro dropping down into the verse. So because of where the chords change in this song, it is anticipated and it changes on the and beat before the one. So we have to have the change just shy of the start of the bar so that we can really grab that drop down into the verse. So you can hear it's just an immediate change. What you don't want to do is have slow panning and bring it in. That just sounds kind of weird. Just make it an immediate shift into this new panning formation. Same thing when it hits the chorus. At that point where you want it to explode, that is where you want to open up your panning. Where you set your panning levels is totally up to you. If you want to make the verses really narrow, just bring that panning right in, and then you can make the chorus sound massive when it opens up. I have the panning at about 50%. Because it's double tracked, I don't want the guitars to be sitting, too close over the top of each other. They still need a bit of separation. I feel like this is a nice place to put them. And then when the chorus hits, I'm almost going hard panning. Totally up to you if you want to hard pan it or if you want to bring it in a little bit. Some people recommend, only going 75%. Some people love hard panning. You do you. Obviously, the harder you pan it, maybe the less information you're going to have when you listen to the mix in mono. But a lot of the time, we don't really listen to mixes in mono. So I'm going to leave that ball in your court and you can make that decision. For me, I like a nice wide mix. So that's why I'm almost hard panning it. If I listen to this in mono, I can still hear enough guitars that I'm happy with. So check out the panning as the chorus hits. Now, if you're a Logic user and you're unsure of how to get into the automation section, this is all new to you. You just press A, it opens up the automation behind the tracks. Then you can come over here and you can select your panning. It's usually under main, pan, and absolute. And then you can start drawing in your automation like I have done here. The marquee tool is really useful for this stuff as well. So you can select that as your second tool, and then you can hold down Command, highlight a section, and then you can just click and drag that panning around. So you can find your whole verse section, and then you can just create that panning with a couple of clicks. Very simple and easy. Okay, so that's part one of the process. Now you can probably see up the top here, this is part two, our volume automation. Now you can do this on the track directly if you want. I have both of these guitars being sent to a bus, which is my guitar bus, and I'm doing a little bit of volume automation here to control both of these on the one channel. It's pretty much the same thing with the panning. In the exact same points, you want to drop the guitars down, whether that's a dB, 2 dBs, it could be a couple of dBs, whatever sounds best to get that dynamic shift from those loud sections, bringing it down a little bit and then popping it back up. Pairing that with the panning effect is what makes this so dramatic. So now that you're aware that there's this volume shift there, watch the faders when the verse hits. The guitar narrows in and drops down at the same time. Check it out when the chorus hits. So those two things happening at the exact same time are really what makes this pop. Now the volume automation that I have on the guitar, I have across the whole mix, so on each of the instruments, the drums and the bass as well. So this is my drums group, my bass group, and my guitars group. And you can see I've got the same automation going on where it drops down a little bit for the verse and then it jumps back up for the chorus. You can do this for any section where you want to make a shift in the dynamics. It has to be very quick though. You don't want it to sound like the track gets faded out and turned down. You want to do these adjustments right on the beat, right where the section changes so that it feels natural. But what you probably notice here is that the guitar drop is actually a little bit deeper. I've gone down 2 dBs, whereas on the drums and the bass, I've only gone down 1 dB. And that's because when you bring the panning in of the guitars, it actually makes them sound a lot louder as they become closer to the center of the mix. So that's why I've dropped it a little bit extra to balance that out. Always use your ears. You don't have to work indefinite 1 dB drops or whatever. Just do what sounds best. So this is how we're building in a big dynamic shift into the mix, especially when it's paired with that panning trick on the guitar. Now, if you want to take it a step further, this is like a little bonus tip for you. And this is where the mono police are really going to get up in my grill and not be happy about this one. We're going to add a little bit of stereo widening to the guitars on the guitar bus. So check this out. What we're going to do is grab an oldie but a goldie, and we're going to use the S1 imager from Waves. I'm going to put this at the end of my chain here on my guitar bus. Now it's basically the same idea. What we want to do is come into the automation section. And to do this, you do need to have your guitars bust. You can't put this on your single track and use this plugin. They have to be going to a group, and then you can use this to widen the group out. Now, I'm not just going to slap this on here and widen the guitars or whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to apply the extra width to the chorus and the bigger sections of the song. So come into our automation again, come to S1 Imager. We're going to click on width, and we're going to use our marquee tool, or you can just click the automation points in if you want. I'm just going to drag it over that whole section. And then I'm going to drag this up to add a little bit of extra width to the guitars. Now, again, I need to come in and make sure this is right on that offbeat where it kicks in. Now, this is where you have to decide how far you want to go with this, because if you do push this too far, your guitars will sound ultra wide. They might sound a little bit disconnected from the mix, and the mono imaging will kind of disappear, like the guitars will cease to exist down the center of the mix. Not always a problem if you don't care about mono compatibility, but if you care about that, you might not want to go too far. So for me, generally, I'd say anywhere between like 1.1 to 1.3 is kind of like, 1.3 is getting a little bit up there, but I'll show you what it sounds like to put it around there. So I'll show you both with and without this plugin on there, so you can hear that extra little push it gives to the guitars. So they sound pretty wide. I personally would probably not go that far. I'd probably just put it around 1.15, and that would just be that little bit of extra push that I think will sound nice. So they still sound connected to the mix, but they do sound a little bit wider, which is nice. And when we listen to this in mono, I can still hear the guitars there. That's because I haven't totally hard panned them in the first place. So you can imagine if you hard pan these and do this, they're going to sound even wider, but they're going to disappear even further down the center of the mix. So how you use and abuse this is totally up to you. This kind of idea is great for sounds within your mix, like synth sounds, pads, anything where you want to make it sound super wide. It's maybe not like a super important element in the mix as well. You can go really crazy with it, but it is fun to apply a little bit of this stuff here and there in your mixes to make them sound wider. This can be a better way of doing it as opposed to just slapping a widening plugin on your mix bus, because if you go too crazy with that, that can create phase issues and make, the center of your mix sound a little bit weird. This is a cool way of just picking certain elements in your mix to make them stand out and go a little bit wider than usual. Okay, so let's compare really quickly. Let's just say you had your guitars panned out fairly hard, and it's just a static mix. You've just set levels, that's it. You're not doing any automation. This is what your mix would sound like compared to once you apply these techniques. So that is massive, and it really is just mixing techniques. There's no crazy plugins, there's nothing like that. It's just using tools that you already have at hand to take your mix to the next level. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support this channel, make sure you check out that link in the description below. Go head over to my website and pick up a drum sample pack or a mixing course. Now, if you've heard the word gain staging floating around and you don't quite understand what that's all about, then check out this next video coming up.